Namaste. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shal Gulhati, Shiva and Mysticism for another episode of Monday with Mahadev. This beautiful picture of Shiva and Parvati in the background is one of my favorites, and it shows us how the mother and father of the universe look longingly and lovingly at us. So, today, the story I'm going to tell you is part from my book and part from a folklore that I heard when I was just a little boy. And that story shows us how together they create the universe and look after it. So the story goes like this. Now Shivji returns home one day from the jungle after his meetings with his denizens, the Ganas, where they talk about the jungle happenings and all the curriculums of the day. And when he comes back, he's really hungry and he tells Parvati, please give me my lunch. So she gives him his lunch, which is rice and dal, pulses, or sometimes rajma, which is red kidney bean, and which is very popular in my part of the country. We call it rajma chawal, the combination of two. And on top of this, Parvati gets another container, and in that she has put ghee and put some spices, salt and red chilies, and then heated them to a point that they are boiling, or they are so hot that they are sizzling. All the condiments are sizzling, and that concoction is sizzling. And when Shiva has put his rice and rajma in the plate, she pours that over it, and it sizzles. So Shiva starts eating his food with his fingers, with his hands, and he tells her, oh, this is lovely, amazing food you make for me, Parvati, because you cook from the heart. And let me tell you one thing about this. So she says, what are you going to tell me when you're eating your food? But Shiva is a visionary, he's a philosopher. He has to say something. So he says, why we eat with our fingers? She says, because you like to. He says, no, there is a science to it. You see, when we eat with our fingers, another sense gets involved. She says, another sense gets involved? Like, what do you mean? He says, you see, when we have food, there are some senses which are involved, like the sense of sight. The food we are having must look good to us. The color must be good, appealing. Then there's the sense of smell. It must smell nice. Of course, there's the sense of taste. It must taste nice. And then when I eat with my fingers, the sense of touch gets involved. And then, Parvati, when you put this sizzler and it makes a sound, in a way, that's the sense of sound, he says. And he happily eats up his food. So Parvati says, you are always a philosopher, my lord. But, he says, but what? She says, but tell me, all the denizens in the forest, our ganas, and all the animals, do they also get food to eat? Do you ever wonder about that? Before you eat your own food with so much gusto, even though you're the chief of all? So Shivji says, of course, my dear. Everybody is provided for in our ecology. Everybody gets their meals. And mostly I eat last of all. Because when I come back from the jungle, I tell those people, eat your meals now. We are finished for the day. Now we must remember, Shiva and Parvati were talking in a time which was before our commercial today. So the ecology took care of itself. We didn't have some people who wanted to hoard things at the expense of others. So we are talking about the good utopian times. But still Parvati is not convinced. She says, all right, I will talk to you tomorrow. So he says, okay. So next morning, when Shiva leaves for the jungle again, she goes to her closet and takes out a little container from there. And in that container, she has kept her sindoor and tilaka, which is the little color that ladies put on their forehead and in the parting of their skull as a mark of respect of being married. And she empties the container into another box and rushes out to the garden and looks for something. And she finds a little ant. And then she tells the little ant, she says, don't mind, my little friend. I'm going to put you in this container. I'm going to imprison you for a little while, but it's only for an experiment, and I will set you free. And there is enough air in this container, nothing's going to happen to you. It's just that you're going to be locked up. Anyway, she does that and puts it back in the closet. So when Shiva comes back from the jungle, he's very hungry as usual, and he says, Parvati, can I have some lunch, please? She says, yes, my lord, here you go. And she pours him his lunch in his plate. When Shiva is eating gustily, happily, she says, yesterday I told you that, are you sure all our denizens get their food when you are eating yours? So he says, yes, I told you. More or less everybody gets their food. I told the boys you can eat your lunch when I was leaving, because I said we are done for the day. We've talked about the matters. Now go home and eat your meals. She says, are you sure? He says, yes, I'm pretty sure. So she goes to the closet and takes out that container and opens it and doesn't look at it and shows it to Shiva and says, look inside, my lord. So Shivji looks inside the container and he starts laughing. She says, why are you laughing? There is a poor little ant there whom I imprisoned only for a short while. And just to show you that while you were eating your lunch, this ant had no access to any food in the garden or in the lawns. So it must have gone hungry. So Shiva says, Parvati, take a look for yourself. So Parvati looks into the container, and what does she see? What she sees is that little ant happily munching on a piece of rice bigger than itself. So what had happened was that in the sindoor, the ladies also put some rice and sometimes saffron, to do it up, to make it look nicer, feel nicer. And Parvati had put on her tikka in the morning, and when she was probably getting the ant and doing that, bending down, a piece of rice fell into the container, which she didn't notice, and she closed it. But as a result, the ant got the best meal of its life without even having to work for it. So Parvati said to Shiva, my lord, you must always have the last word. How do you do this? So Shiva tells her, no, my dearest, I do not do it. You do it. You are Jagajanani, the mother nature who cares for everybody and provides for everybody, even though sometimes things happen mysteriously. And then that is why we also call her Annapurna, the one who nourishes us all. But this story is beautiful. Can we also think about how we have changed it? Can we also put a break on our hoarding methods and our greediness? Some of us who have access to a lot of food, can we think of sharing that with those who don't have it? We don't have to do much. We can just take a look around our own vicinity, our own colonies, and see there are poor people who sit outside temples or some other place, and they wait for someone to come and give them their meal. They don't have access to a meal. Can we also share Mother Nature's work? I will leave you with this thought till we meet again on the same channel on the next Monday. Om Namah Shivaya.